Hello and welcome everyone to AARP Wyoming's Video Voter Guide Series for 2024. I'm Tom Laycock with AARP Wyoming, and today we're joined by Jordan Evans, who's running for the Wyoming Legislature in House District 7 located in Cheyenne. AARP has a proud 40-year history of nonpartisan voter engagement and does not endorse or oppose candidates, nor does AARP make contributions to political campaigns or candidates at any level. Instead, we ask questions so our AARP members understand where the candidates stand on important issues and can make their own decisions on Election Day. Today, we'll ask Mr. Evans 3 questions, allowing for a 1 minute and 30-second response to each. Then we'll give him 2 minutes to make his pitch to the voters of House District 7. So, Mr. Evans, thanks for joining us today. Here's our first question. Over the last 2 years, the Wyoming Legislature has made providing property tax relief for its citizens a priority. In your view, what's the most effective way to provide relief while balancing needs for our schools, counties, and other entities that rely on property tax to maintain sustainable funding?
Thank you. This means a lot to me personally because I work in local government, and so I know how important property taxes are to the funding of important operations and services for people in cities and counties and towns across the state of Wyoming. I think that the work that's been done by the legislature is a good start. I would like to see more of a focus on progressive rather than regressive property tax relief that focuses on people on fixed incomes, people who have lived in Wyoming for a long time and who are not moving here for tax advantages, as well as reducing the burden on folks who are lower or middle income. And to balance those offsets and property taxes, I'd like to maybe see perhaps taxes on second homes or vacation rentals, especially in the northwest part of the state where those can be more impactful. I'd like to see sales on homes over a certain very high value taxed at a different rate to be able to make up for some of the shortfall. But certainly the people who have lived in Wyoming their entire lives, worked their entire lives in Wyoming, and who are now finding their tax bill untenable, they should be the priority. And then also just the diversity or diversifying our revenue streams would go a long way to making us less dependent on those taxes.
Thank you. Our second question for today. Wyoming's population of those aged 60 and over grew by 47% from 2010 to 2020, while the state's entire population grew just 2%. We know 64% of all nursing home beds in Wyoming are paid for right now by the state Medicaid program. What do you see as the greatest barrier for helping our older adults age in their homes and communities? And what solutions would you provide?
I think we have certainly a state that focuses on free market approaches. Unfortunately, I think we need to deal with the reality that in many cases, the free market does not allow Wyoming to exist in the way that it does or has for a long time. As younger people are leaving communities and as the cost of care gets higher, saying it's up to you to save, it's up to you to take care of this on your own, or wait until you turn 65 in order to be able to afford this long-term care is not tenable. So I'd like to see investments by the state into long-term care. That could start by taking in federal money that we've left on the table by extending Medicaid. I realize it doesn't affect Medicare, but it does allow more flexibility in our budget in general. I'd like to see investments made in home care at the local government level. I would like to see the state giving money to local governments to allow their citizens to make improvements to their home, as well as attract people, incentivize and attract caregivers who largely are not interested in living in some of the rural parts of the state for a variety of reasons. So providing incentives for them would be key to address the shortage of those workers, in addition to helping support folks living in all over Wyoming.
Our third and final question for today is this. Emergency medical services are not considered an essential service in Wyoming, and in some areas, ambulance services do not have a sustainable funding source. Over the last 10 years, Wyoming has seen 16 EMS providers in the state fold or consolidate with another service. What solutions would you offer for ensuring access to ambulance services?
I would like to see a permanent fund set up, much like many of our other permanent funds that would go towards reimbursements in communities that need those reimbursements. I don't want to subvert local control where possible, but the individual right to have an emergency service at your home, which I do believe is an essential right and service that should be considered as such in the state of Wyoming. We should make an effort as a state to collect some of our funds and be able to distribute them to counties and towns that are not able to keep those services going. And to tail on to the end of the last question, I think incentivizing people who work in those industries, perhaps we pay for your education and training as long as you make a commitment to spend 3 to 5 years in Wyoming serving as an EMS. Perhaps we look to incentivize volunteerism in certain ways, because I know volunteerism going down in our rural fire departments is a problem on multiple fronts, not just for EMS. Looking at the way the state can use our tax base to establish permanent and sustainable funding to assist our local governments and local jurisdictions would be the most responsible way. But it is a very difficult problem that would require the entire legislature, not just ideas from one legislator, to come up with really innovative solutions.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Evans, for taking the time today. Let's give you 2 minutes now to explain why you believe you're the best person to represent House District 7.
Thank you. So I've lived in Cheyenne my entire life. I love Wyoming. I'm a multi-generational Wyomingite, and I see the change in the demographics of our state politically, where people are coming in from outside of our jurisdictions and moving in, and instead of learning how Wyoming has worked in the past, they had a preconceived notion of what Wyoming was, which was a hyper conservative, hyper religious, hyper just very far right, more far right than I think they were, than was the reality. And it's funny because a lot of these people move from places that are more liberal than Wyoming, and they come here and they assume the reason Wyoming isn't the way that it is because other people also moved from those places and made it more liberal. And while Wyoming's never been liberal, it has always been kind. It has always cared about its neighbors, and it has always been interested in not policing the thoughts and actions of others. And I see people moving with money and with influence into the state, trying to change it, and it feels like they're running an experiment on our home. And I don't like that. I don't want my home to be an experiment for people to run their ideas of political ideology. What I want is for Wyomingites, be it if they just got here 6 months ago or if they got here 35 years ago, I would like them to feel like they can participate in the civic process, have their ideas heard, and we can all work together to find solutions for the problems that we're actually facing as Wyomingites. Our declining revenue streams, the loss of our young people, the loss of our medical services. These are things that are not often talked about by the people who are moving here and wanting to drag us into culture wars. And I would fight to make sure that we focus on Wyoming first every second that I was in the legislature.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Evans, for your time, and thank you to our viewers for joining us for this video voters guide. We encourage you to keep checking Cowboy State Daily and AARP Wyoming's Facebook page for more video voter guides in the days to come.